Hello and welcome to another Stellarium Games video. In this episode, we're going to be looking at how to make some standing stones. These standing stones are very simple structures, just foam with a little counterbalance screw on the bottom. But they have some runes carved into the front of them that makes them a little bit more unique than just a stone piece of terrain. These are meant to represent some sort of magical circle that you might find in a Stonehenge or something similar where the circle could do something unique for a character in a campaign. So these are pretty straightforward to build, just some basic carving and a pen to carve in the runes. You just have to have an idea of how large you want the stones, what variety do you want them to be very natural, or do you want them to look somewhat more hewn, squared and hewn in some fashion? But I chose a little bit more of a kind of a natural stone look, as if they found just a large boulder somewhere and decided to haul it over and set it upright into this standing formation. So let's go to the tabletop and see how this is done. Okay, for this project, we're going to use some 3/4 inch XPS foam and start cutting these into some rough block sizes of varying sizes. Again, if you wanted to use a more uniform stone, you could measure and cut that way. I wanted a very organic feel, so the size didn't really matter to me. I'm using a utility knife and just cutting along the sides of these to create a very organic shape to all of these stones. I guess my goal for these was really to kind of taper them in some way and not leave any of the the factory edge straight planes intact. I wanted to kind of remove those factory edges and make them as organic of cuts as I could. So you can see I'm taking great pains to try to get rid of all of those factory edges and just shave off each of them and use kind of a scissoring motion to do that. This is going to be the center stone for the standing stones, kind of the altar in the middle. So I'm cutting that a little bit flatter and then using an X-Acto knife to cut a hole in the center, which would be kind of the offering hole. Next, I'm going to use some lava rock and just push into all of these stones to give it a little bit of a stone texture. It just roughs up the edges. And because they're now cut XPS, this pushing in really adds a nice texture to the stones. Next, I'm going to use a ballpoint pen and start inscribing the runes onto all of these stones. I just chose some kind of geometric shapes and different flavors, not really any language. You could choose some sort of fantasy language and inscribe it that way. I wanted it to be a little bit more universal, so I just chose like some pictogram kind of images. Then I'm going to use a small screw and put that into the base of the standing stones to give them a little bit of a counterbalance and help them stand up. Next, we're going to use a black paint and Mod Podge mix, and that will give it our base coat of black and give it a little bit of a shell to protect them. Then I'm going to use some brown paint as the base coat, dark brown paint. And then I'm starting to lighten it up with varying shades of tans and browns, and then kind of finishing it off with a very light dry brush of gray over the whole thing. As you can see, I didn't wait for the paint to dry. I decided to jump right in and go from coat to coat, and that seemed to work out pretty well. So here's the finished product. Very simple project, like I said. But very effective for placing down on the table for a lot of different situations. The runes really popped once you dry brush and leave those kind of exposed. They have a nice aged, weathered look to them that I really like. So I hope you like this project. If you do, please hit the like button and subscribe, and we'll see you again next time. Thank you.